take from trends. If anything, I created a trend. In the 80s, people were actually copying my guitar style, and they were overexposing it to the point where I was playing my guitar style. It was already heard over and over. I discovered very early in my life the infinite interspring of creativity, being yourself, being Michael Schenker. Everybody can do this. It's just a matter of choice. Do you want to follow a commercial trend that will guarantee you commercial success and make you money, make you fame, and put you in the limelight, etc., etc.? Do you want to, or do you want to self-express yourself? As long as I can go back, being a kid, even at 5 years old, it was always in my expression. I found, or I may have always had the connection to the inner infinite spring of creativity, and that's where I go. I don't see any point in taking from the trend and taking it from other people. They are already doing it, so why should I do it? By going to the inner spring and injecting freshness into the trend, which is basically the 80s were watered down version of the 70s and commercialized and made everybody rich, I didn't see any point in doing something everybody else was already doing. He's already doing that, so why should I do it? So I was always attracted to this pure self expression and inject something to the world and to the trend that comes from a fresh place. Without people like me, I'm sure there are others. The trend as we know it, the rock and roll trend, would have died a long time ago. I mean, the boss of Nuclear Blast, which is Michael Schenker's current record label in Germany, said to me one day, Michael, if you would have been Nuclear Blast would have never been as well. And he was never would have started thrash metal. I was like, what? What? Really? I never knew about these things because I was never looking for expectations of having an impact like that. I was just happy with music. There were a couple others Australian interviews that said, quote, Michael, if it had not been for you, there would have not have been thrash metal or death metal or any of the other metal genres. I said, what? It's unbelievable. You don't expect anything. I never really look at critics or any at write-ups or anything. I'm usually just happy being a musician and focusing on the music, just enjoying that. Now, Shaker will release a new MSG album titled Immortal next
Yes.
January on Nuclear Blast Records. Now, it was recorded at the Kid Room studio in Shaker's home country of Germany with longtime producer Michael Voss, who co-produced the album and also sings on two tracks. It would also continue the tradition of the last two Michael Schenker Fest albums, Resurrection and Revelation, and has big lists of friends and guests on those albums. The album's main vocalist will be Ronnie Romero, formerly of Rainbow, along with Michael Voss from Mad Max, Jolyn Turner, who used to sing with Rainbow and for a while Deep Purple and Invade Malmsteen. He sings on two songs on that album there. And it was recorded with Barry Sparks on bass, Steve Mann on keyboards, as well as three drummers. Simon Phillips, who used to play with the Priest, The Who, Toto, Bodo Shipoff. I don't know how his last name was pronounced. It's spelled Schopf. And of course, there's the one cat formerly of Whitesnake. His name is Brian Tichy. I think it's spelled Tichy. All right, there. Of course, a credit to Michael Schenker. I mean, like he was the one that really popularized the Flying V, along with KK Downey of Judas Priest as well there. And I guess many others have been playing it as well there. If I had my choice of guitars I would like to get me, it definitely would be a Flying V, that's for sure there. Kind of like the one you got, the Michael Schenker black and white one.
Yes.
That's a classic design all its own self there when you look at it. Definitely.
I'll show it on screen here too.
All right there, yes. Now you got the Dean guitar version there, manufactured by Dean Guitars.
Right.
And Michael Schenker's original is, of course, the original Gibson model there. Now, I would like to get what would be really cool is if I had the guitar I have, the Strat copy manufactured by Lynx Guitar there, and possibly get that painted in the same exact style myself there. Of course, it would cost them plenty there, plenty dollars there, I should say there. And is Ark here by chance?
Yeah.
Pretty good, good. All right. Now we're ready to boom. Now, of course, we're doing part 4 of our British Six series, the Big British Six that we're doing, and we're spotlighting, of course, YR's one of YR's favorite bands. And he discovered them. When did you first discover the Priest? I guess was
Old Man Davy,
nice
Painkiller song, and
yeah.
I started listening to it, and then I was bored, and I listened to all of the British songs and bands rather, and Judas Priest is one that stuck out the most.
All right, there, yeah. Priest, I know has been a favorite along the heavy metal genre for how many years there? Actually, since the 1970s. Their first record, Rock'n'Rolla, came out in 1974 there, or 5, if I'm correct. Actually, 1975. A couple years later, Sad Wings of Destiny would come out as well there.
Man, it's
And
the best
Priest,
album.
yes, a lot of deep tracks
Really is.
on that album. In fact, when I showed you the new version that I got on vinyl, which by the way is a double album, it's cut at 45 rotations per
There's
minute
2
there.
albums inside there.
Yes, it's about
Wow.
2 tracks on each side. Side
Wow.
1 is Victim of Changes and the Ripper. Side 2 is Dreamer Deceiver and Deceiver. And like I said, they're cut. You play it at 45 speed on your record player there. It's on a thing called E something Entertainment. I mean, but then again, it's no surprise how many record labels have put those 2 records out, that and Rock'n'Rolla, because Gull Records, that those albums were originally released on, went out of business for decades. They were reissued on RCA Records. They were reissued on this record label, that record label there. It's like, holy cow. It's like, kind of like the first Black Sabbath album, because that album is not in the property of the band themselves. And basically went out to Vertigo Records. It's released on this label, that label, and no doubt, as one journalist said, it's going to be available forever, for crying out loud. Of course, then later on they would sign with Columbia CBS. They would put out Sin After Sin, one of their first breakthrough albums with Sinner, Diamonds and Rust, Last Rose of Summer there. Simon Phillips, who we mentioned earlier, played the drums on that record there. They would get a official new drummer named Les Binks to fill in the spot for a while. Their 2 previous drummers, John Hinch and Alan Moore, have departed ways. In fact, Hinch passed away last year, to come to think of it.
What was I going to say? Oh,
yeah.
Well, when people say like, oh, who created heavy metal, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's 2 different definitions of that, because really, like, if the look, the sound, people always say Black Sabbath, blah, 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 but really, I really think it's Judas Priest. Like,
well, it actually goes way deeper than that. I mean, you look at bands like Steppenwolf, Blue Cheer. Ark knows about these bands, especially Blue Cheer. He recommended that one album, Vicibus Eruptum, if that's pronounced, if I'm correct.
Vicibus Eruptum.
Yeah, that's a bridge. Basically, that record, for I understand, it had their cover version of Eddie Cochran's Summertime Blues in a much more massive style there. I mean, they still play that on the satellite speakers on the Goodwill stores. You'd definitely hear that a lot of times there. I remember seeing the old Beat Club videos on the old MTV there. It was it's definitely from the 1960s, that's for sure there. And some people say that possibly the Who may have had a hand in creating heavy metal with the way they played ruthlessly like they did during their live shows there. I mean, like, not many guitar players can whack a yippie activist like Abby Hoffman during their Woodstock performances like Pete Townsend did there, let alone smash their instruments.
When did you get in? When did you get into Priest though, Brown?
Well, actually, I heard of first time I heard of Judas Priest when Unleashed in the East first came out. That was in 1979, and the first song I remember hearing was their cover of Fleetwood Mac's "Green Metalishi" with the two-pronged crown.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. I heard that, and then later on, I also heard. So I think I remember hearing "Living After Midnight" a couple times on the radio, late at night. And of course, I see a couple other albums. I remember seeing Point of Entry as well, the album cover for that. But it took MTV and their videos for Breaking the Law. Then later on, You Got Another Thing Coming. That was a big hit on the old MTV at that time and on the radio. I've seen how they dressed it, how they looked it, how they performed, and everything else. I mean, like the video for that is a classic, not just for the lasers behind the band as they were performing in this area, undisclosed area there, but also the guy with the meter, with the mustache, the derby hat. His head pops off and blows up, and his pants fall down at the end there. That's a trip to look at. That still remains a memorable sight to look at there. And of course, that was not unplanned. So, but then again, some things unplanned do make a wave into certain movies there and videos.
Yeah, like professional wrestling has some stuff. I mean, not anymore, but like when they used to do the promos and stuff.
Yep. Especially Booker T's. That was one of the greatest botches of all time there. Of course, at that time, the N-word was a favorite among black people because of the gangster rap genre there going on. And Booker T just didn't realize he was said it to the last minute. It was like, oh, crap, what did I just do there? And here's sensational Sherry Martel, like, commenting that, it's okay. I don't know if he ever got any heat from the management for that, but still was better. It was Memorial. It was memorable. Memorial, my bad. Memorable.
Happy Memorial Day, by the way.
All right, yeah, that's right. It is. Right now, I guess the D-Town's having their movement festival, if I'm correct, there in that back in Hart Plaza there.
Right.
Mm-hmm. By the way, Movement Festival is a techno festival that's all weekend long there, having a whole bunch of techno artists from around the world come in and do their shit there. And sadly, I'm unable to attend it anymore. I used to attend it when it used to be free. But unfortunately, since they started charging oodles and oodles of dollars to get inside, long lineups, I said, fuck it. All right. Art, what are your memories of Judas Priest? Any of the deep tracks that you know from them?
Well, Judas Priest, I obviously knew of them when they first came out and all of that, but I never really got into them deep. I know the normal songs everybody else knows. You got Another Think Coming, Breaking the Law, and there's a couple there's others. And it's not that I don't listen to them, because they're not a dial turner for sure, but they're not somebody I go out and seek.
Well, they changed my... And coming from, fans of, we're all fans of the good 60s stuff, 70s stuff.
Yep.
Country stuff. So we have similar interests. I really highly recommend that you got to go to, like, I don't know, because some of us did, like the Painkiller album is way different from, like, their classic stuff, their 70s stuff.
It is, yeah. It was like...
but it still hits, like, Halford's voice. I mean, he's the metal god. They call him the metal god for a reason.
Absolutely. He inspired many heavy metal vocalists throughout the 1980s there to do the same shrieking and screaming that he did.
And then he
And
covered that Black Sabbath stuff. I mean, that was amazing.
Yeah, well, yeah, let's not forget him. Back in the last episode we did, he is filled in for Black Sabbath not once but twice as their frontman. And the story about that, as you all know, I'll repeat it again. Ryan James Dio didn't want to appear in those shows in Costa Mesa in 1982 because he had a massive grudge against Ozzy Osbourne. And in 2004, Ozzy was really sick. I think it may have been bronchitis or something. Halford was called in again to do the job, in which he did pretty well there. And let's also not forget, Halford got the thumbs up from the late Luciano Pavarotti. Apparently, he gave praise to Halford for his vocal abilities there. I mean, like, Halford is one badass, top-notch singer. And Halford's also been making himself around with the other artists of some of the newer bands out there. There's a song by the group At This Moment called Black Wedding, which Halford trades vocals with their female front person there. I heard this song myself, and it's pretty damn good. I definitely recommend checking that out, dude.
No, it is a shame that they only played the three main songs on the radio. Living After Me.
We know that. That's how radio is, and that's the thing. We definitely got to do a special about there where we're do a show about there. The diehards versus the hangers-on. The trendy people. We got to definitely do a special about that because I got a lot to say about those people out there. Because these are the same, and it's like that with every other band. Whether it's Black Sabbath, they play Iron Man, War Pigs, Shield of the Grape, Paranoid, but they don't play a natural acrobat. They don't play Supernaut. They do not play a hole in the sky.
Confusion.
Absolutely, because you got the idea that we got to play the same songs over and over again. If we do not play the same songs over and over again, the people out there, the sheep out there that listen to our station, that absorb that we spoon fed them, will turn up the dials. We will lose revenue. We will lose ratings. Yup. That's how they think.
Well, like remember in like 2000s. I mean, I would have to say 2000 and or like the early 2000s up until like 05. Maybe a little bit later, they played rock on the radio, and it was good. Like they
absolutely, yeah.
Whether it was maybe Foo Fighters, or I remember when Black Label Society was hot on the radio. They came out with a hot song, Zach Wild's group, and it was a big song they kept playing on the radio over and over and over and over and over. And it was like 2003 or something, 2004 or something like that, right? And so that was a good time for rock radio. I mean, now it's just all rap, all hip hop. I mean, it's horrible.
And the only rock and roll stations that exist is the classic rock stuff. Now, there was this one station out there back in Detroit called WRIF. I don't know if they're still the same, because they would play stuff like old Black Sabbath, and they would play newer stuff like Five Finger Death Punch.
Will they be having, I don't know if it's every rock station in every city, but late night, they used to do a rock block, like 5 songs. It's called Mandatory Metallica.
Yeah, absolutely.
I believe it might have been commercial free as well, but it was all, and they played some deep Metallica too. Not your average Black Album songs, like some other stuff. You know what I mean?
Yep. That's true there. But the thing is, they should probably do something that's really deep as well. Like, say, play either Dyer's Eve, or play something like Eye of the Beholder from them, from And Justice for All, or better yet, play And Wolf and Man, or probably Holier Than Thou. for the
I
Black
mean, I
Album.
like the load and reload. I mean, people aren't really big fans, but I like the. But we need to get back into Priest.
Yeah.
Would you consider Headed to the Highway a deep track or
It's a
like
favorite
a
long time. I would say it's something like a somewhat deep track there. For me, because it's very recognizable. That's
it is?
sometimes may get played on the radio, but for me, a deep track, well, from that record, Point of Entry, would have to be something like either Take It All the Way or On the
Solar Angel
Run. Solar Angels, yeah, that's a good one there.
really is.
Absolutely, absolutely, dude. That's, I mean, when I buy an album, I'm going to go for the whole album, not just the whole song. I mean, like,
There's not much point in buying an album for one song.
absolutely, that's a waste of time, and that's another thing I kind of talk about. Some of these record companies often did. I mean, like, they would put all these songs on a soundtrack album, and it would just be like songs by and inspired by music from and inspired by this motion picture here. Like they did that with one of the Batman movies or this hip hop movie there or this adventurous movie there or whatever it is called there. And it would just be like, "Ugh, give us a break. This makes no sense at all. Give me, come on, dude. Come on, dude. But you know how record companies are. All they got to do is think, oh, we must sell records. We cannot afford our vacation in the Bahamas if we do not sell this copies of this R. Kelly record. Who cares if he's a pedo wad? Let's sell records. Yup, yup, yup. That's how they think. Anyways, Priest says, they carried on with the Columbia Records for many years. They released albums like
Well, we got to
Sin
keep
After.
in mind, we got to people that it's really like in the 80s,
Yeah,
if not actually the year 1980 is when they were mainstream.
yeah,
I mean,
with
they were really popular, obviously overseas, but because there's
yeah.
there's three there's three 70s albums, correct, Brown? Three or four,
Yeah, well, it's actually more than 370s. There's a Rockarola. There's
right?
Sadly. Excuse me.
Sad Wings of Destiny, Sin After
Yep.
Sin.
Sin After Sin, Killing Machine / Hellbent for Leather.
Oh,
And
what year was that?
that was, I believe, in 1978. That was actually two titles in one. In the UK, it was the title Killing Machine, and in the States, it was called Hellbent for Leather because the US label figured Killing Machine was a little too extreme at that time there, so they changed it to Hellbent for Leather there.
What was their
And they
bigger?
also,
What was their bigger, more popular albums? Screaming for Vengeance or British Steel, in your opinion?
well, they're both equally pop. In my opinion, they're both equal. What is your? I think your voice broke up there.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I heard your voice. You were
I
talking,
said,
and
what was more impactful and popular, British Steel or Screaming for Vengeance, in your opinion?
the albums, I think, probably be Screaming for Vengeance because I remember you got another thing coming. It was like massively big on the radio, all over the radio, even on the this one top 40 radio station I remembered. They played that song a couple times on there because that song was hot. The video for that song was hot just as well
Yes.
there. Absolutely there. It was big, massively big. And it also helped pave way for Priest to have success throughout the 80s. And around that time, Dave Holland was their drummer at that time, and he aided in that success as well with not only his drumming, but also the building that he purchased.
And we do have to dive into the whole twin guitar thing, Brown.
That's right. They're known for their twin guitar sound as well there. In fact, you look all on the Priest albums, in the credit list, they'll indicate, I meant to say, which solo is which during the, like Glenn would be on the left solo and KK would be on the right channel there. They always did that on their albums, whether it's Turbo, whether it's Defenders of the Faith, which Defenders of the Faith was a pretty massive album for me. It's still one of my favorites from them because of the massive sound on that disc there. Free Will Burn, it was
one of my favorite album. Well, really, like top three for me is Painkiller, that one, and Sad Wings, DBA. Like a lot of people's favorites is Scream for Vengeance, but it's like there's more on the other. I mean, there's really good stuff on, you know.
Absolutely, like Ram It Down. I was listening to that album. Now you also got to give Priest you got to give Priest their due, because Priest had been known not to be predictable. I mean, they could, like, after Defenders of the Faith came out, a year and a half later, they come out with an album called Turbo, which was more, which kind of was a more pop-oriented record there. I mean, some of the songs kind of like have a top 40 rock kind of flavor there to it. Some like close to the Bon Jovi realms, but lots more harder there. I mean, Locked In, the first single was pretty good song there. Turbo Lover still remains a classic song that sometimes still gets played on the radio today. Now, the story about that album was that was supposed to be called Twin Turbos. Side 1 and 2 was actually the Turbo album, and side 3 and 4 was supposed to be a lot more heavier stuff. This heavier stuff they decided to save for the next record, which would be Ram It Down. And I don't know the story behind why they had a drum machine on that record instead of Dave Holland on the drums, but I do not know what the situation was or whose idea was it there. But after hearing a lot of tracks on that record, it's a pretty damn good record there, especially Blood Red Skies and the title cut there. I mean, like the beginning of the title cut would definitely make a good alarm clock. That's for sure there. Definitely. Along with Tommy screaming.
We need to bring up the homosexuality from which was a major thing back in the day. I mean, I don't know. I didn't live
very major thing. Well, it's no secret now. Rob Halford has been gay all his whole life there, and he was expressing that throughout his lyrics as well as the way he dressed it on stage and in the videos. Now, everybody knows the kind of stuff that Halford wore on stage. A lot of times, the boots, the leather vest, that was stuff that gay men would wear when they go to the gay clubs, you know? It's obviously no secret about that.
Homoerotic.
Homoerotic, exactly. Halford was expressing his homosexuality without actually saying it. I mean, along with the dress code that he wore in those videos and performances, you listen to all the characters that they sang about, whether it's Painkiller, Exciter, Starbreaker, Sentinel. They were all men. They were all dudes.
What are you talking about? No, they're monsters and stuff.
But they're all guys. He is the Painkiller. Never have he ever mentioned a woman's name except for 2 songs, and they were both derogatory songs. Happened that those 2 songs are actually probably co-written with their previous frontman, Al Atkins.
What song?
Rock-a-Rolla, about a user, and of course, Victim of Changes, about a woman with an alcohol problem. Hence the first line with that song, Whiskey Woman, Don't You Know You're Driving Me Insane. That was originated from the demo simply titled Whiskey Woman.
Right.
Yeah. Other than that, those are the only 2 mentioning women. Never heard any woman's name mentioned in any of their songs ever again. That was an indicator right there. In fact, I think I mentioned this a couple of years back when we did our gay heavy metal shows for our old show, Metal Maniacs. Remember that we did? Remember we did? Yeah. It was Pride Month the June of that year. And we were discussing.
It was funny.
It was. I know. The way I said it was kind of funny, but I know. But think about this. Think about this. Back then, you were not supposed to come out of the closet during the 70s and 80s.
Did you think you would say back then or not?
No. If Halford came out of the closet back in the 80s when Priest was riding high, Priest would have been DONE, done. Because back then, homosexuality was looked on as a pure evil, pure sin Yeah, you screw guys. Yeah, you get away from us. We don't want you. And the same thing would have happened with Culture Club when if it was real that Boy George was actually sleeping with their drummer.
For real?
For real, yeah. Him and John Moss had a thing going on.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it was. Back then, you had to keep everything under wraps. You had to keep it keep it quiet and let nobody know, out of fear of losing your status.
When did Elton John come out?
I think it actually came out when he came out in the Rolling Stone interview in 1978.
Oh my god!
And when he when he was a guest player during the soccer event over in England, people were yelling out anti-gay slurs at him. It was not cool to be gay back then, believe it or not. It took how many years throughout the 1990s for people to finally appreciate homosexuality. In fact, one writer I remember saying, hey, I cannot respect Rob Halford for coming out at a time when it's so fashionable, it's so acceptable. And I was like, really, dude? The reason he came out now because it's now acceptable, plain and simple. If he came out back then, Priest would have been done, as I said. And of course, you also got to dig into the court case in 1990 there. And I'm sure, Ark, you probably heard about this one. This was a real something right here. Let me explain the whole situation. Back in the 80s there, two boys were listening to the Stained Glass album, listening to the song Better By You, Better Than Me, which was a cover tune, by the way. They were smoking weed, they were getting high, they were drinking a lot of booze, and everybody knows that when you do both and listen to music, let alone watch a TV show or a movie, you're going to see and hear things that are not really there. They started to form this suicide pact, take a couple guns, blow their brains out. One survived, but had to have a surgery, and certainly did not look the same as he did before he did this. He later died. The mothers of the sons took Priest to court, claiming that they put hidden messages in the songs of that album, particularly "Better By You, Better Than Me." And believe it or not, they were actually put on trial for how many weeks there. Now they were found not guilty of doing this, but there's still hold resentment towards the band by these two mothers here. In fact, they were blaming Ozzy Osbourne for kids killing themselves. Marilyn Manson was being blamed as well. They were pointing the finger at bands like Iron Maiden and, of course, Black Sabbath, as always, for corrupting the youth of today.
Kiss,
yep, they went after them as well there. They were going after all these rock bands. Ted Nugent, they were going after Jethro Tull one time. They were going after everybody. They were going after rock music all in general. They're saying rock music corrupts the devil, corrupts kids of today. It's the devil's music. How about the environment, people? If you're going to raise it, I'm sorry, no kid is going to grow up around the area of thugs and not expect to be a thug themselves. Think about that. Prince even said it best. The lyrics that he wrote in his earlier albums was all from stories and events that happened all around them. Plain and simple. Now, Priest, as we mentioned, they got off scot-clean. They were able to tour once again with their new drummer, Scott Travis, who is still with them to this day. But CBS Records...
Who do you like better in the community, Scott or Travis?
What's up? Who would I like better? Scott Travis or Dave Holland?
Scott or Travis.
Oh, in the community?
Yeah, Travis or Scott.
I prefer Travis because Travis, at least Travis doesn't do the bull. Have not went off the deep end as Scotty there.
No, but Scott Travis, I did see him in concert.
Yeah,
and obviously that's 30 years later or so.
Yep.
He started on that Painkiller album. Now they did have a drum machine on Ram It Down. Now I wonder why he was like recorded computer drums for that album, which is interesting.
I know. It's like when I listened to when I was first time I heard Blood Red Skies, I was figuring, This sounds a little bit interesting here. All right. Real interesting. What kind of a drum production they did on there? Let me look it up on the Wikipedia there. Blah blah blah. Ram it down. They got because the Wikipedia has a lot of interesting stories about songs, movies, and everything there. Blah blah blah. Let's see here. All right. Okay. It is the 11th studio album by Judas Priest, released in May of 1988. It was
1988.
in 1988. Yep. I remember Halpern had grown out his hair at the time. Yeah, when he performed, he had it a
One song
ponytail.
on there I really like.
Mhm.
God, what is it? On the top of my head. Not the title track, but Jawbreaker. Jawbreaker.
Oh yeah.
Love that song.
Oh yeah. That's on Defenders of the Faith there, by the way.
It is?
Yeah, it is. Second track on that album there. It was on the last album to feature longtime drummer Dave Holland. It was promoted in Europe and North America with the Mercenaries of Metal tour there. Now, by July
Blood
of 19...
Skies is on there.
What's up here?
Blood Red Skies is on there.
Yep, on the Ram It Down. Yes, great song there. One of the badass songs they ever did. I think they do that song currently when they perform nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good choice there because it is a damn good song. It's pretty good stuff on that record, I will say as well there. Except for their cover of Johnny Be Good, which I heard a year before. It was the first song on the soundtrack of the same name, and I did not like it one bit. Not that good of a cover. Sorry, guys. Right. All right, so we got to let Ark talk. I know he's been waiting for have his turn.
Well, actually, I had a lot more to say for Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, and Led Zeppelin. I don't have that much for Judas Priest.
You got the records that we're talking about. Definitely look them up and listen to them, like Rock and Roll Up, Sad Wings of Destiny, Hellbent for Leather / Killing Machine, Stained Glass, Alicia in the East, badass live record.
I pretty much have those. It's just a matter of sitting down and listening to them.
Definitely, you got to listen to all the tracks there. They're pretty good songs there. My old homies back in Michigan, Roseville, Michigan, Bennett used to was a big fan of those records. He was playing those records a lot, trying to learn their songs because he was trying to learn guitar at that time there. And of course, my best friend Dennis, he was big on the Defenders of the Faith and Screaming for Vengeance just as well there. And as well as Iron Maiden. We were big on Iron Maiden just as well. You also got to look up Painkiller, Ram It Down. And we also got to recommend 2 albums that was recorded with Tim Ripper Owens on the vocals there. Jugulator and Demolition. Now, I haven't heard anything from Demolition myself, but I heard tracks from Jugulator. Tim Ripper Owens came in 7 years later after Rob Halpert departed from the group amidst some lawyers and legal issues between the two sides there. Halpert was going to do a solo record. Lawyers got involved. Halpert, decided, screw you guys. Priest in turn said, screw you as well there. It took about 7 years for Priest to find a new frontman in Tim Ripper Owens, who was singing in a Judas Priest tribute group called British Steel. They recorded 2 albums together. They toured the States and Europe there. Now, the difference is because alternative was the main thing at that time, they would play the State Theater in Detroit, all these small venues other than the Cobo Arena or the Palace of Auburn Hills or possibly the Toyota Center here in Houston. And but then again, that's how it was around that time. Iron Maiden was the same way. They were playing small venues when they toured because they had a different frontman, and plus alternative was the main thing at that time there. But also going back to Jugulator, you may notice they detuned their guitars a little bit down way. Like if they were to do Victim of Changes, instead of the usual open E minor, it'll be like an open E minor flat. That's how they did it at that time. I guess I think it was possibly to yeah. Yeah. You say something? Wire?
Oh, I was just saying it was like a different sound. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was. The
More harder.
Metallica's done it a couple times. Scorpions did it a couple times. Something different now and then.
Well, one of
But
the
a lot of
reasons that some guitarists will use the drop D tuning occasionally is because they get a deeper sound in that last bass string.
yep. Black Sabbath did that on Master of Reality, and they followed through on a couple of their other albums with Ozzy, like a Volume 4 and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath as well. And you know what? Master of Reality would go on to be a major player in the influence of grunge rock, alternative rock. Soundgarden is included.
Well, when they say, when people say, Sabbath was the grandfathers of, because I don't know, like people say metal, heavy metal, like Priest really did create that sound though. Like if you think about it,
Yeah.
like all of your, and obviously the '80s had its own sound or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But it's like they, I don't know, like Sabbath was a little bit more hippy dippy, like not sounding. It was hard and everything, but it was just like it was a little bit more, like I get the dark element, it's dark, blah blah blah, Sabbath, but compared to Priest, like Priest was way more louder, and Priest was way more faster, and you know what I mean. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if it, like I said, if it's to say that Priest was a major player in all the influence of all the '80s heavy metal bands that would come out during that whole decade. For instance, it got to the point you may remember where Priest actually had to change their wardrobe, their onstage wardrobe in their videos and performances because everybody else was starting to copy their old look. You look at the photo shoots for the Turbo album; they're a lot more flashier, a lot more stuff, a lot more flashy clothing, I guess you would say. And of course, Halford with this trench coat that he wore, which was one of the main inspirations why I would start wearing a trench coat when I went to clubs there. You may see that a couple of times. Excuse me there. In fact, because it did that because everybody was copying their old look. Kind of like what David Bowie did. When people started to copy whatever style he had at that time, he threw that away and started a new one. And also, someone else I got to bring up there. The feud between Rob Halford and Judas Priest when Rob left. Rob Halford was going to put together a side project called Fight. They recorded an album, War and Words, which came out in '93, produced by Halford himself and featuring all the songs written by Halford. A lot of lawyers got involved. A lot of issues came about. Halford decides, screw this, I'm done. Priest said, okay, we're done with you. It would take about 7 years for Tim Ripper Owens to come into the fold. Halford at that time, put out another Fight album titled A Small Deadly Space, which unfortunately I didn't see any or hear any music from. I should probably check that record out there sometime soon there. He would also put together an industrial rock project called Two. He would John 5, then known as John by his real name, John Lowry, from Grosse Pointe, Michigan. You remember the band Pepperland I talked about a couple times on the show? They used to play the Ritz in Roseville and New York, New York. The lead guitar player, that's John Lowry, people. Yep. AKA John 5. And he is a badass, I will tell you there. He's worked with everybody from Rob Zombie, Halford, Marilyn Manson, you name it. And he has his own record albums as well there.
He has a big Kiss collection too. Kiss
Absolutely. Oh, no surprise there. Now Halford decided to get back when he came out of the closet. Just remember back in 1998, the same time Priest put out Jugular. Some people thought at first, oh, he's trying to gain some attention for himself because his old band is back on the road after how many years. But when you look at all the evidence, it was clear. It was all clear that it all makes sense now. He was gay from the word go there. In fact, he even confessed that his first major crush was on Sean Connery, the actor. And of course, Halford, by the way, had his issues with drugs and alcohol in the 80s as well there. He finally got help in around 1985 after an incident where the male lover he was involved with was having this, brutal ass fight, and apparently in an interview he stated he got in a taxi, headed out there. He had to get out of that place. The guy shouts out, "I love you more than anything." He had a gun to his head. And just, you all know what happened afterwards there. And, that's when he decided to get help and going to rehab and get off that shit. He's been how many years sober since that there? Now, Halford, as you know, has this massive range that he was able to channel his voice high pitch. I mean, like, you listen to the shrieking he does on Ram It Down, Descendant Aggressor, Exciter. The Priest said during that, when he was able to reach that high note, all his bulging veins would bulge out at that when he did that. And the amount of sweat that would pour out just as well there.
That is true.
Yeah. And it's so now Painkiller, when I first heard the songs from that record there, I thought, are you trying to capitalize on the thrash rock scene? Because Megadeth was big, Metallica was big at that time. But when you think about it, Priest inspired thrash metal with the songs they did at the time, like Free Will Burning, Exciter, Running Wild. A lot of fast-paced stuff there. Oh, yeah, cannot forget this track Sinner from Sin After Sin as well there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. The song Call for the Priest as well there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, from Sin After Sin.
Did you hear the live version of Sin After Sin?
No, I haven't.
Sinner.
The song Sinner. I've heard many versions of that, especially on when they had the Live Vengeance show on the old MTV back in '82 there. Badass to the core. I mean, that was KK's Hendrix bit for a line. That was extended for a long while there. They extended that for a long while. That was monumental there. In fact, did they do that song when you saw them, YR?
What, Sinner?
Sinner, yeah.
No.
Oh, crap. They should, man, because it's a great song. Great song from them. That was one of my favorites.
Yes, he really has to, you know what I'm saying? I'm surprised. Painkiller,
Yeah. Painkiller itself was a real badass of a thrash song when you look at it there. Thanks to Scott Travis drumming, the way he drums, man. Because he's a beast behind the kit when he played on that album. Stuff like Leather Rebel, Touch of Evil, One Shot of Glory there. I mean, that's the Priest that people are loving right now. That's for sure there, along with the other Priests. Now, Priest, as you know, has had many drummer changes. The current being Scott Travis, Dave Holland, the previous one, and before that, Les Binks. As we mentioned, Simon Phillips, who drummed with The Who, and Pete Townsend, a couple others there. He filled in on the Sin After Sin album. And, of course, Alan Moore, who played on Sad Wings of Destiny, and the late John Hitch, who played on Rock-a-Rolla.
Right.
Yeah. Now, Rock-a-Rolla is an album that really should get a lot of mention as well. Now, it's not as fast and heavy as the other stuff later on, but it has some pretty good stuff there. Like Never Satisfied. They played that on their current live show a couple times there. Actually, they played it when they first got Andy Sneap into the fold there, filling in for Glenn Tipton, who, as you know, has been suffering from Parkinson's for a decade now. We just didn't know about it until a couple of years before. I guess it was in 2019 when Firepower came out, I believe it was. And I guess they're working on a new album with Tipton in the studio currently, I guess. I guess between the shows and recording gates there. And it's going to be a lot more experimental, according to Halford. Now, the question is, since priests are going to be inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and because no doubt will we see reconciliation between KK Downing and the members of Judas Priest?
Yes.
Because for God knows how long, it's been for how many fucking months now, for a whole year. What?
What's the language, man?
Well, we cuss all. Well, it doesn't matter, you know.
Yeah.
I know. We cuss. Hey, Minnesota Vikings fan cusses like a bitch on his. In fact, I'm surprised he's not on the call right now.
All out, man.
Mm-hmm. That's the PO to accept. Now, let's have to see if he gets on there. See if he knows any good Priest songs or albums there.
He doesn't know nothing. I wanted to dive into about the news.
Yeah.
Part of the news, Vinnie Paul.
Yeah.
They're doing this big auction. They're going to auction off a bunch of his personal items.
Oh, really? I think you mentioned that, yeah.
There's an article about it, and there's actually, if you go to the website and everything, it gives you there's just hundreds of paper of a list of stuff. The bid starts at $50. There's stuff that starts at $1,000. Instruments, T-shirts he wore, $50. But all kinds of stuff that he owned, and personal items and stuff. So pretty cool.
Yeah. It's nice there. And is the money going to a charitable cause, if I understand?
I did not see that.
No.
But
it would be nice. It would be nice, it's always good that the money goes to charitable causes. I think you should probably do that if they're doing that. Good for them. And of course, Pantera unable to do any reunion shows because both Abbott brothers are no longer with us. It's just Phil and Rex remaining. Phil's doing his own thing, and Rex Brown has his book that came out not too long ago, detailing his time in the Pantera camp there. And of course, Paul, we understand he made a move to Las Vegas. A former waitress at the previous job that I worked at, she moved currently was in Vegas. She paid her homage to Vinnie Paul because she would come in to the restaurant that she's working at currently. Yeah. Now, if they decide to have KK Downing rejoin Priest for the next tour, do you think they should keep Andy Sneap in the lineup as well there, as well as Richie Faulkner?
No, I'll just have Richie and KK.
Now, how do you rate Andy Sneap as a guitar player, as a fill-in? Remember, the guy currently is a fill-in.
Look, it was big that Tipton performed 4 songs at the end. He performed the 4-song encore at the end.
Yep.
At pretty much every show on their U.S. tour this year.
That's right. Yep, and the previous one as well there.
That means he's not necessarily declining in health like the Parkinson's usually does. Or what is it exactly? Is it Parkinson's or is it Alzheimer's?
It's Parkinson's for sure there.
So it's like
same thing that Ozzy Osbourne and Lyndon Ronstadt have. And of course, Michael J. Fox, also a guitar player in his own right.
Really?
Yeah, he is. I mean, you take a look at a movie called The Light of Day. Joan Jett is his co-star. I guess he did some guitar playing and a little bit of singing on the soundtrack there, and in the movie as well there. And let's not forget the guitar playing he did in the first Back to the Future movie. Yeah. It would be nice, and I would agree. It would be nice that KK and would mend the fence and melt the ice between him and Priest, because for past couple of years, up until the pandemic hit, and of course after the pandemic, died down there, he has been complaining and upset that he was not invited to rejoin Priest with the news of Glenn's Parkinson's issues there. I guess he was been wanting to come back to the priesthood, but I guess the way he left, I guess, was kind of a big upset to the priesthood there. And I guess, KK trying to, he has his own band called KK's Priest, as we all know now, currently. But for a while. But after, what up, you want to see?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing them.
I wouldn't mind seeing them either. Yeah, that's true there. Yeah. Now the thing is, up until that time, after his departure, KK tried doing rock promoting, promoting shows here and there. I guess he had a golf course going on for a short while there. He sold his stock of the Judas Priest catalog for a certain amount of big wad of money, I guess. He would put out a fragrance called Metal for Men, which I want to mention. I keep looking to where I see if I could get some. I'm going to try that out. I want to get that. What's up? I'll probably look on Amazon or eBay, whichever there. I mentioned that to my sister. My birthday is going to be coming up, so I'm going to probably have her order it for me as a birthday present there. See how that works out there.
Oh, they do have it. It's $50 on Amazon.
Nice, cool. Is it the big or small bottle there?
Big bottle.
Ah, nice. Lasts a lifetime for that good of a price there. Yeah, it's gonna be. So, Judas Priest, one of the big pioneers in actually not really pioneers in heavy metal, but the carrier on of heavy metal. Needless to say, there. Big influence on all the later heavy metal bands out there, including Pantera, Skid Row, many other bands that are out there right now. Including, by the way, there's this all-female Priest tribute group called Judas Priestess, who's a singer as a black lady, which is pretty cool. Yeah, gotta go check it out. And by the way, I sent YR a YouTube link to a mashup with Judas from Lady Gaga and Painkiller from Judas Priest. Yeah, we got to talk about that one. It's done by Wax Audio. It's basically they took the vocals from Painkiller and mixed it with the song Judas by Lady Gaga. And they also added some extra drum machines in there, a little bit of elements, and it's rearranged. It's ranged perfectly damn good. The video features black and white clips from the Judas video and the Painkiller video mixing together there, and perfectly done. And when I said it to you, it's like LOL or laugh out loud how it was done there. It's like it probably took you by surprise.
Yeah, I like that. It was good.
It was pretty damn good. In fact, a couple of times when they had DOS Machine or Cyber Wasteland on numbers, I guess it was going to be I would keep requesting to see if they had that by chance, and they don't. For crying out loud. It's like, come on, you should get it, man. Download that sucker and play it on the next time you do your DJ gig or something like that. It's a badass thing there. Pretty damn good mashup. Oh, so
what's the next? Are we doing Maiden next, or are we doing Motorhead next?
Yeah, I say we do Maiden and close out with Motorhead. How about that?
All right.
That sound good? Okay. So, anything going on with? I feel we got to let Ark, have his say, on. Because he was mostly quiet on this show there. Now, he said doesn't really...
I don't know that much about Priest.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's
You
why I
come
want
to
to get the. That's why I want to get the list shows back too. So Art can make a bunch of list like our after we're done with this special. What was the next topic after the our
I
British
think
special?
the next topic is the diehards versus the trendies. The issues with new fans joining in on old bands, making it big. Like the same thing with
No, like
Priest. Oh, no,
no,
go
like
ahead.
it was
What?
like I thought it was going to be a list thing where Ark had the list of the best, like the most, the bands that should have been huge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
right.
kind of what we
Yeah,
were
that's
talking.
right. Yeah, we got to
Yeah,
do that, man. Definitely.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about bands that should have been big but weren't for one reason or another.
I know, I know. There's a few I remember that should have been great, should have been accepted a long time ago. Believe me,
when
man.
we get those lists back, like that's when everyone can get more involved. Like Ark, and you know what I'm saying? Follow Ark's list, and if there's bands that obviously have heard of, or Brown's heard of, or someone else heard of, or didn't hear of, or want to hear more of. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah,
when you pick like a top, like the British thing, like obviously it's a tribute show and everything.
yeah.
You know, um, maybe Ark will have more opinions on Iron Maiden and Motorhead coming up.
That's that's true. There, yeah, definitely, definitely got us. Definitely, we recommend Ark listening to the pre-songs of the albums
Yeah,
that we recommended there, as well as some early Iron Maiden albums and some of the current ones that are out there.
Yeah, ironically, I have all this stuff, but I just got to sit down and listen to it.
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely got to see what we're talking about in terms of the lyrics, the drumming style, the beat of the song there. To see what we're talking about there. All right. Okay, so I guess that this concludes our program for today. I guess.
yeah.
All right, good, good. And we'll be back this coming Thursday to discuss Iron Maiden, another legendary band from the UK there that was so heavily involved in the new wave of British heavy metal scene, and they're still going on today there. When you
Yeah,
look,
they're currently touring in
they're still
Croatia.
touring. Yep, they're touring all over the place. I mean, like, definitely got to give props to this band because they have really made it big, despite no airplay on the radio. Well, except that was for the WIF station I mentioned. They often play The Trooper and Run to the Hills, and that's about that. All right, there. So I guess that concludes our show today on Judas Priest. And once again, congratulate them for making it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame after how many years? Hopefully, maybe.